March 28, 1942, 1:34 a.m., St. Nazaire, occupied France. Major Klaus Weber, 22nd Naval Flak Regiment, Wehrmacht, stood on the observation platform above the Normandie Dock, watching HMS Campbeltown approach at 19 knots. The British destroyer flew German ensigns. Weber's hand hovered over the alarm as every instinct screamed this was wrong. Then Campbeltown's bow struck the massive caisson gate with the sound of tearing metal, embedding 4 tons of delayed-action explosives inside Germany's only Atlantic dry dock large enough to service Tirpitz. In the next 90 minutes, 611 British Commandos would prove everything Berlin told Weber about Churchill's gangsters was catastrophically wrong. 5 Victoria Crosses would be awarded for actions that night, Britain's highest decoration for valor, and Weber would write the after-action report that led Wehrmacht High Command to create their own special forces, the Brandenburgers. This is the story of how propaganda met reality at 19 knots. If stories of courage and ingenuity move you, please like and subscribe. Every subscription helps us honor the memories of those who served. Major Klaus Weber, 41, Dusseldorf. Career officer, Great War veteran, promoted to Coastal Defense 1940. He'd read Goebbels' propaganda about British Commandos since their formation in June 1940. Ministry directives distributed to Wehrmacht units characterized them as criminals recruited from British prisons, gangsters using terrorist tactics, violators of laws of war, not entitled to prisoner of war status, subject to immediate execution if captured. Weber absorbed this narrative. His pre-raid estimate: if commandos attempted St. Nazaire, they'd send perhaps 100 men in motor launches. His batteries would destroy the launches in the estuary. Any survivors reaching shore would be mopped up by the 22nd Naval Flak Regiment's 1,000-man garrison. The defensive plan had one critical flaw. It assumed the enemy shared German respect for self-preservation. March 25, 1942, intelligence report crossed Weber's desk. Increased British naval activity near Falmouth. Aerial reconnaissance detected destroyer movements. Weber's analysis: possible convoy escort preparation. No threat to St. Nazaire. The Loire estuary was 400 miles from British ports, heavily defended, suicide for conventional naval forces. He filed the report, routine. March 27, 1942, afternoon. Second report. British destroyer HMS Campbeltown missing from Devonport. Weber considered it. One destroyer? Probably repositioning for Atlantic patrol. Even if it approached St. Nazaire, his guns would sink it miles offshore. He didn't consider that the British might deliberately sacrifice a destroyer to destroy the dock. That level of operational audacity, ramming a vessel packed with explosives into a strategic target, was outside Weber's tactical framework. That evening, Weber wrote in his duty log, "Defensive readiness, excellent. No significant threat indicators. Garrison morale, high. British commandos remain minor nuisance, not strategic concern." 12 hours later, HMS Campbeltown would ram the dock gate at 19 knots, and Weber would learn the difference between propaganda and reality. March 28, 1942, 1:20 a.m. Weber's night watch officer reported surface contacts, multiple vessels approaching from the estuary. Range, 3,000 meters. Weber reached the observation platform as searchlights swept the Loire estuary. HMS Campbeltown, flying German naval ensigns, leading 18 motor launches. Weber's training said, identify, challenge, engage. But something was wrong. Campbeltown approached at high speed, ignoring defensive signals. The destroyer was obsolete, American-built, transferred to Britain under Lend-Lease. Why was it here?
1:30 a.m. Campbeltown passed the outer harbor defenses without slowing. Weber ordered batteries to open fire. 20mm tracers arced across black water. Campbeltown's deck erupted with return fire, heavier than expected, coordinated, professional. This wasn't a gangster raid. This was naval assault. 1:34 a.m. Campbeltown struck the Normandie Dock's southern caisson gate. The impact drove the destroyer's bow 8 feet into the massive steel structure. Weber watched commandos swarm off the deck, not fleeing, advancing, toward his position. The motor launches hit the quays simultaneously. Commandos poured ashore. 200 men, 300, more. Weber's garrison opened fire. British return fire was accurate, disciplined, devastating. These weren't criminals. These were elite infantry. Weber realized everything Berlin told him was wrong. The commandos had 3 objectives: destroy the dock, demolish pump houses, wreck the winding gear controlling the caisson gates. Weber's garrison had numerical advantage, 1,000 defenders versus 611 attackers, but the British had initiative, surprise, and something Weber hadn't expected: absolute tactical professionalism. Commandos moved through his defensive positions like they'd rehearsed the assault. They had. Operation Chariot had been planned for months, rehearsed at a mock-up facility in southern England, timed to the minute. Weber's garrison was fighting the most thoroughly prepared raid in military history. 1:45 a.m. Commandos breached the pump house. Demolition charges placed. Weber sent reinforcements. They arrived too late. The pump house exploded, destroying machinery controlling the dock's water levels. 2 a.m. Second explosion. Winding house demolished. The massive wheels controlling the caisson gates shattered, rendered permanently inoperable. Weber organized counterattacks. His men fought building to building, but the commandos had already accomplished their mission. They were fighting withdrawal actions now, buying time for demolition teams to complete work. 2:30 a.m. Final commando units pulled back to the harbor. Most motor launches were sinking or destroyed. Weber's batteries had sunk 12 of 18. Surviving commandos attempted to fight their way to remaining launches. Only 4 made it back to England. 169 commandos were killed or captured, but they'd won. Weber stood in the ruins of the winding house as dawn broke. His garrison had defended the facility. They'd inflicted severe casualties. They'd captured or killed most of the attacking force, and the dock was destroyed. 10:30 a.m., March 28th. Campbeltown exploded. The delayed action charges, 4.5 tons of depth charges packed into steel drums in the destroyer's bow, detonated while German engineers inspected the wreckage. The southern caisson gate disintegrated. Water flooded the dry dock. 40 German personnel died in the explosion. Weber understood. The commandos had planned this from the beginning. Ram the dock, fight through garrison, buy time for charges to detonate, accept casualties, destroy target. This wasn't desperation. This was operational art. The battle. 89 minutes. The full assault lasted 1:34 to 3:03 a.m. Weber experienced it as cycles of shock, adaptation, and realization. Cycle 1, initial contact, 1:34 to 1:40. Campbeltown embedded in the caisson gate. Commandos disembarked under covering fire. Weber ordered his 20mm batteries to engage. Tracers cut across the dock, hitting commandos on Campbeltown's deck. Men fell. Others kept advancing. Weber expected panic. British troops caught in killing zone should break. They didn't. Commandos moved in fire teams. 4 men, coordinated, 1 advancing while 3 provided suppression fire. They'd rehearsed this. First realization, these weren't criminals. Criminals didn't move like this. Cycle 2, motor launch assault, 1:36 to 1:50. 18 motor launches hit the quays. Weber's gun sank 6 immediately. Wooden hulls disintegrated under 37mm fire. 12 launches reached the quays. Commandos debarked, 200 men flooding his defensive positions. British fire was accurate. Weber's battery at the Old Mole, 12 men, went silent in 90 seconds. Commandos used smoke grenades, suppressive fire, aggressive movement. They fought like elite infantry. Second realization, they'd planned for his defenses. Every battery position Weber considered secret was targeted immediately.
Cycle 3, Demolition Operations, 1:45 to 2:15 a.m. Commandos breached the pump house while Weber organized counterattacks. He sent his reserve company, 120 men, to retake the winding house. They arrived as commandos finished placing charges. The demolition teams were working from detailed plans. They knew exactly which structures to destroy, which equipment was critical, where to place charges for maximum effect. Weber's counterattack interrupted them. They fought delaying actions while final charges were set. 2:12 a.m., pump house exploded. The blast threw Weber's reinforcements backwards. Secondary explosions followed. The pumping machinery tore itself apart. Third realization, this was surgical. The commandos weren't destroying randomly. They were dismantling the dock's functionality with precision. Cycle 4, Fighting Withdrawal, 2:15 to 2:50 a.m. Commandos pulled back toward the harbor. Weber's garrison pursued. Street fighting through Nazaire's waterfront. Brutal, close range, lethal. Commandos defended every intersection, every warehouse, buying time. Weber watched British soldiers provide covering fire while teammates withdrew. Discipline under fire, mutual support, professional infantry tactics. His men killed commandos in the streets, captured others attempting to reach motor launches. But the withdrawal was organized, not panicked. Even in defeat, they were maintaining unit cohesion. Fourth realization, defeat wasn't the right word. They'd accomplished their mission. This was planned sacrifice. Cycle 5, Aftermath, 2:50 to 3:30 a.m. The firing decreased. Most commandos were dead, captured, or escaping in the 4 surviving motor launches. Weber's garrison controlled the dock. He walked through the pump house ruins. The machinery was destroyed beyond repair. He inspected the winding house. The massive gears controlling the caisson gates were shattered. The dock was inoperable. And Campbeltown sat embedded in the southern caisson gate, bow packed with 4.5 tons of explosives set to detonate in 8 hours. Weber didn't know about the delayed charges yet. He would at 10:30 a.m., when the explosion killed 40 of his men and obliterated the gate. Fifth realization, the British had won. Casualties didn't matter. Equipment losses didn't matter. The dock was destroyed. Mission accomplished. March 28, 1942, 11 a.m. Weber sat in his command post writing the after-action report. The Normandie Dock was flooded. The southern caisson gate was destroyed. The pump house and winding house were ruins. Repair estimates, minimum 2 years, possibly 5. German High Command wanted explanations. Weber provided them. British commando forces demonstrated tactical proficiency exceeding intelligence estimates. Attack planning was sophisticated, execution was disciplined, and demolition operations were precise. Propaganda characterization of commandos as gangsters or criminals is operationally inaccurate and strategically dangerous. Recommendations. 1. British commandos should be assessed as elite special operations forces equivalent to Gebirgsjäger or Fallschirmjäger standards. 2. German defensive planning should account for unconventional attack methods, including deliberate sacrifice of assets, destroyer used as explosive device. 3. Wehrmacht should consider formation of equivalent special operations capability. Weber interviewed captured commandos. Lieutenant Colonel Charles Newman, raid commander, was professional, composed, and completely unrepentant. Newman explained, the operation was planned for 8 months, rehearsed for weeks, and executed as designed. Casualties were anticipated. Success was measured by objective achievement, not survival rates. Weber asked, "You knew most of your men wouldn't return." Newman replied, "We knew the mission was critical. The dock had to be destroyed. Tirpitz cannot be allowed Atlantic access. Every man volunteered, understanding the risk. Weber included Newman's statement in his report. He added his conclusion: "These are not gangsters. These are the most dedicated soldiers I have encountered. Germany needs equivalent capability." The report reached OKW, Wehrmacht High Command, by April 2nd. Admiral Raeder, Kriegsmarine commander, was furious about the dock's destruction, but acknowledged Weber's tactical assessment. The propaganda narrative about British gangsters was quietly discontinued in military communications. Weber's report influenced strategic thinking. If Britain could conduct such operations, Germany needed equivalent capability. The Brandenburgers, Lehrregiment Brandenburg ZBV 800, had existed since October 1939 as a sabotage and special operations unit, but Saint-Nazaire demonstrated the potential of elite forces conducting strategic raids. OKW expanded Brandenburger operations after Saint-Nazaire. The unit grew from regiment to division strength by 1943. Training emphasized precisely what Weber described in his report: discipline under fire, demolition expertise, unconventional tactics, acceptance of high-risk missions.
Lieutenant Hans Schäfer captured Brandenburger officer, 1944. Saint-Nazaire changed how we trained. Before, we focused on sabotage and infiltration. After Weber's report, we studied commando operations. The British proved special forces could achieve strategic objectives conventional forces couldn't. We learned that lesson. The Normandie Dock remained inoperable until 1947. Tirpitz never left Norwegian fjords for Atlantic operations. Without Saint-Nazaire, she had no repair facility if damaged. The battleship spent the war as a fleet in being, threatening but never decisive. British Commandos received 5 Victoria Crosses for Saint-Nazaire, the highest concentration of Britain's supreme decoration for valor ever awarded for a single operation. Germany's propaganda machine had called them gangsters. Their own government recognized them as heroes. Major Klaus Weber survived the war. He returned to Dusseldorf, worked in municipal administration, and rarely discussed Saint-Nazaire. He died in 1968, age 67, in the city where he was born. But his report remained in military archives. Post-war historians studying special operations found it remarkable. A German officer acknowledging British tactical superiority, recommending Germany adopt enemy methods, and explicitly rejecting propaganda narratives. Weber's estimate of commando effectiveness influenced Cold War special operations doctrine. American, British, and German military planners studied Saint-Nazaire as a case study in strategic raiding. The operation demonstrated that small, highly trained forces could achieve objectives impossible for conventional units. The raid's cost was severe: 169 killed or captured out of 611. But 5 Victoria Crosses, a destroyed dry dock, and a neutralized battleship proved the mission's value. Weber wrote in 1947, "I believed what Berlin told me. Commandos were gangsters, criminals, desperate propaganda. Then I watched 611 men sacrifice themselves to destroy a dock. That's not criminal behavior. That's the purest form of military dedication. Germany should have understood that sooner. Perhaps we would have developed equivalent capabilities earlier. Perhaps the war's outcome would have been different." March 28, 1942. 1 destroyer, 611 men, 89 minutes, 5 Victoria Crosses, 1 destroyed dry dock. The operation that made Germany create the Brandenburgers. The raid that proved propaganda couldn't withstand reality. The night when Churchill's gangsters became the most respected special forces in military history. 611 commandos attacked Saint-Nazaire. 169 died. 106 were captured. 222 escaped. The Normandie Dock was destroyed for 5 years. Tirpitz never threatened Atlantic convoys. The British proved that courage,
training, and audacity could overcome numerical disadvantage and fortified defenses. Major Klaus Weber learned the hardest lesson in warfare: never underestimate the enemy, especially when your own propaganda tells you to. If this story moved you, remember, 169 men died, so one dock could be destroyed, so one battleship could be neutralized, so thousands of merchant seamen could survive. That's the calculus of war. That's the price of victory.